This is the Rebel Call channel. Welcome to today's show. And this is yet again royal bloodlines, presidents, prime ministers, fake elected politicians. We're seeing more and more of them revealing themselves out in the open. We're even seeing it with the Pope out in the open, where people like Zelensky are giving demonic Antichrist portraits to somebody who's supposed to be the beacon of Christianity and a follower of Jesus Christ. They are revealing themselves as what they truly are, which are Luciferians, all of them. And a picture like this is just in plain sight. Just like when we see Joe Biden out in plain sight talking about eating the blood or drinking the blood of children and worshiping Lucifer, saying this at speeches that are on national television in the United States of America. It's the same thing here with King Charles. There's a lot to get into and to break down. And if you're new to the channel, I recommend you subscribe now. I had somebody recently say, you've only been here 3 months. It's a lot of content that you're putting out, but you're a newbie here. Well, guess what? I might look like a newbie, but I don't sound like a newbie. I've been doing this for a long time, and I've continued to be the most censored voice on the internet, and I will continue to do so. So make sure you subscribe and click the notification bell. So a lot of people have seen what you just saw, the revealing of this portrait of Prince/King Charles, that out in the open, most people with common sense could look at this and say, well, that looks pretty demonic. Is that supposed to be blood that's surrounding him? Is he in the pits of hell? Is he Satan himself? Well, let's start by breaking down the actual picture. So let's start with taking the picture itself and mirroring the picture, because a lot of times they do things with their duality, as above, so below, as well as their law of reversals. They do things like this knowing that right out in the open, you can actually see who they worship, right? So you take the picture of Charles and you mirror it on the opposite side. And again, if you don't know the law of reversals with Aleister Crowley, they believe in doing things backwards. So there is significance in mirroring the actual photo. And if you mirror the photo and you look right in the center of that photo, what does it look like? Can you see the Baphomet? Because I can. Look closely. Well, you don't really have to look closely. And if you actually look closer and you decolorize the picture and remove the color, you could see flat out the Baphomet right in the middle of that picture. You see the two eyes, the nose, you could see the horns, each going out on both sides, even in the forehead. You could see the torch. If you look at the picture of Baphomet, you'll see the torch between his horns. You could even see it in this picture right at the top. That is the eternal flame of intelligence shining between the horns. This is what Anton LaVey wrote. The flame of intelligence shining between his horns is the magic light of the universal balance, the image of the soul elevated above matter as the flame, whilst being tied to matter shines above it. And I've broken down the symbol of the eternal flame before. We see the eternal flame on the Statue of Liberty. Obviously at the Olympics, the ceremony, people think it's just good fun that they run around with the torch. These are all pagan at their core, which again is Satanism at their core. So you could see the flame right in the top, in the middle, when these pictures are mirrored next to one another. If you even look close enough, when you go back and you colorize the picture, you could see that what looks like the nose, you can actually see an eyeball if you zoom in close enough. You can actually see an eyeball in the picture. And again, what is he, a failed optometrist? The all-seeing eye of Lucifer that we see on the back of the dollar bill, that we see every single celebrity obsess over. That's why you can find a picture of pretty much every single famous celebrity doing a pose with a hand over one eye. This is referencing the Bible. In Zechariah chapter 11, verse 17, woe to the idle shepherd that leaveth the flock. The sword shall be upon his arm and upon his right eye. His arm shall be clean, dried up, and his right eye shall be utterly darkened. So we see the obsession with the eye. Now, if we look closer in this picture, it's very obvious that we could see a monarch butterfly. Now, to the sheeple out there, they'll look at this and they'll say, well, he's got a monarch there because it's a monarchy. It's not anything to do, with the transformation. Again, the monarch butterfly represents the transformation as well as MK Ultra, which I'll get into in a second. But for those of you that don't know, the majority of things that they idolize, the symbols that they constantly show us, represent a transformation. And guess what? They're talking about the transformation of human beings, the mixing of iron and clay, transforming what it means to be a human. And that's kind of what ties into everything that's going on now with gene editing. Okay, so that's what the monarch butterfly symbolizes, but it also symbolizes and represents monarch programming, which is an offshoot of MK Ultra. The origins of monarch programming, as we all know, we see celebrity after celebrity after celebrity holding up butterflies over their eye or just wearing butterflies. We've even seen the queen herself dressed up with butterflies all over her outfits, pictures of butterflies. Then the dumb sheeple out there think that this has something to do, of course, with they think that it literally has something to do with the fact that it's a monarchy. Yet they don't realize that every single celebrity out there, as well as doing all-seeing eye symbolism, can be seen with almost every single female celebrity. Well, they present themselves as female. Most of them actually aren't. But almost every single celebrity has an obsession with butterflies, not because they go in their backyard and love butterflies and see one and just want to draw it in a painting, not because they love the royal family. This, again, has to do with what's going on with monarch programming. And if you haven't noticed, it's been unleashed on the population. This used to be something that the CIA did and tested on the military. And then little by little, they tested it on civilians. Now we're seeing it on a mass scale. It is a massive mind control operation. And one of the programs in MK Ultra monarch programming, one of the actual programs is Princess and Prince programming, where if you don't know what that means, you've seen probably a million shows that are directed towards children that get them obsessing over being a princess or being a prince or being a king, right? Every Lifetime movie now for adults has this same programming built into it, and nobody realizes why. And I believe a lot of this will have to do with the revealing of the Antichrist, as well as what we're seeing with Kate Middleton, which I've covered over on my website over and over and over again about how Kate Middleton is the perfect person to use for what they're trying to normalize next, which is getting something inside your body, which didn't work the first time around. So on top of those things, we see the monarch program. We see obviously the monarch butterfly in the picture, along with, obviously, if you mirror it, you could see the Baphomet. For those of you that don't know, just a rundown on King Charles is that King Charles was coronated king 6 months, 6 weeks, and 6 days after Queen Elizabeth's funeral, after we were told that it was a funeral. Again, we know that these people don't actually have real funerals. They transfer their souls into different vessels. There's all sorts of satanic rituals that are done. There's never really a funeral. That's just for the public out there. A lot of them select their own days when they leave the earth. We've seen King Charles, a lot of the scriptive stuff with him where he's been out in the open, where you could see crowns above his head and you could see the 6 color beams coming out of the crown with your 666 symbolism. Of course, best buddies with Jimmy Savile, who, if you don't know about Jimmy Savile, well, what can I tell you at this point? I mean, it's pretty easy to just look up yourself about Jimmy Savile. And, you might want to say, well, just because he's friends with somebody, what, would you be friends with somebody who was accused of the things that Jimmy Savile wasn't just accused of, was guilty of doing with youngsters? Would you be hanging around somebody? If you found out your best friend was doing that in his spare time with kids, would you be hanging out with him? Of course you wouldn't. Even if you knew him since high school, you'd say, I'm not hanging out with you and I'm turning you into the police. Well, in the case of the royals, you don't turn people into the police. In fact, you engage in this behavior and protect those types of people because you're involved in the same type of activities, and that's why he's buddies with Jimmy Savile. Now, we've seen King Charles doing the hidden hand before, another Masonic symbol that many of these celebrities do on the open. Even in the Illuminati card game, obviously we saw the Prince Charles card because the prince was obviously going to be turned into the king at some point in time. And if you haven't seen, and all of you out there are familiar with the Great Reset, I've covered it before. Everybody at this point has covered it. But we have to watch the players involved. And King Charles serves a big purpose in this. He's even out in the open talked about how we need to militarize to move forward with this climate change agenda, which the sheeple out there think when they hear about climate change that has something to do with caring about plants and nature and, oh, those big buildings, those factories that have pipes and smoke comes out of. We got to stop those. No, the The carbon specifically they're trying to stop is you. If you didn't know how photosynthesis works, the way God created the world, everything is perfectly fine. Trees actually absorb that carbon and then turn it into oxygen, and that's how we breathe air. So if you haven't noticed, they've been trying to light a lot of trees on fire and suck carbon out of the air so they can grow things underground and suffocate us here on Earth. And if you haven't seen the Georgia Guidestones, of course, we all know they blew that up to get that time capsule out. But we all know the things on there that say maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. And you'll hear Prince Charles here talk about nature. Everything has to be according to nature. And this is part of the deception that's going on. Nature, right? Nature, well, that sounds like something we could all relate to. We all breathe, so we gotta, if they came out in the open and they told you that it had to do with Lucifer, you might rise up against it and arrest these people. But when they say nature, it's very easy to dupe people into something that we all have in common, which is we all breathe oxygen. Well, most of us do. These lizards, like King Charles and the royal bloodlines, I don't know if they really breathe oxygen. I mean, we know that they breathe and they feed off of the blood of children, but here's Prince Charles again talking about the reset that these people strategically created, as well as the obsession and the need constantly for nature, that it's all about nature and that Earth isn't even ours. It doesn't belong to us. The Earth doesn't belong to us. And he's not saying that referencing our Father in heaven. He's referencing the ruler, the God of this world. And for those of you that don't know, the Bible specifically in 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 4 says, whose unbelieving minds the God of this world hath blinded, lest the light of the glorious gospel of Christ, who is the image of God, should shine unto them. The God of this world. And guess what? The God of this world is their father, their God, Lucifer. And that's who he's referencing in this speech, while he also talks about how we need to reset everything.
Surely real action is required to stem the growing toll of its most vulnerable victims. As I've tried to say on many occasions, unless we rapidly repair and restore nature's unique economy based on harmony and balance, which is our ultimate sustainer, our own economy and survivability will be imperiled. We are carrying out a vast, frightening experiment of changing every ecological condition all at once, at a pace that far outstrips nature's ability to cope. After all, ladies and gentlemen, in 2050, our grandchildren won't be asking what we said. They will be living with the consequences of what we did or didn't do. So if we act together to safeguard our precious planet, the welfare of all our people will surely follow. And we need to remember, too, that the indigenous worldview teaches us that we are all connected, not only as human beings, but with all living things and all that sustains life. As part of this grand and sacred system, harmony with nature must be maintained. The earth does not belong to us. We belong to the earth. I know you all carry a heavy burden on your shoulders, and you do not need me to tell you that the eyes and hopes of the world are upon you, to act with all dispatch and decisively, because time has quite literally run out. The scale and scope of the threat we face call for a global systems-level solution based on radically transforming our current fossil fuel-based economy to one that is genuinely renewable and sustainable. Here we need a vast military-style campaign to marshal the strength of the global private sector. We have an incredible opportunity to create entirely new sustainable industries, investing in nature as the true engine of our economy.
The current global crisis has disrupted every aspect of our lives, but it has also presented us with an extraordinary opportunity, a chance to reset and accelerate efforts to improve the state of our world.
Changing our current trajectory will require bold and imaginative action, together with determination and decisive leadership. In order to secure our future and to prosper, We need to evolve our economic model, putting people and planet at the heart of global value creation. If there is one critical lesson we have to learn from this crisis, we need to put nature at the heart of how we operate. We are on the verge of catalytic breakthroughs that will alter our view of what is possible and profitable within the framework of a sustainable future. We need nothing short of a paradigm shift, one that inspires action at revolutionary levels and pace. We simply cannot waste any more time. The only limit is our willingness to act. And the time to act is now.
So King Charles is one of the demons on this earth who are bringing about this new world order infrastructure, this new world order globalist government. Obviously, he's best buddies with Klaus Schwab. They've always been connected to each other, and the king serves a very important role. If you think that the king really has cancer, think again. Okay, the thing that they're doing with Kate Middleton and King Charles is to normalize a certain something that people are going to take, not just to cure cancer, but also to prevent cancer in the future. And you just went through the first trial experiment run. That's why all this buildup for decades after decades about cancer has been put in place, because people are going to run and sign up to get this put inside their body. Like I've said a million times, they ultimately are going to get this inside of people's bodies one way or the other. So to recap, when we go back to this portrait, this revealing of this portrait, they know when they reveal these things that people out there are going to dissect it. They know any person, no matter if you're a conspiracy theorist or not, who sees this picture is like, whoa, that's a little strange. I mean, it literally looks like his face is emerging out of the pits of hell. But ironically, that is what's really occurring. And I guess it's not so ironic, it's just truth in plain sight, because that's how they operate. These people operate in plain sight, showing us who they are. They reveal themselves through signs and symbols, which I've exposed for years now. They always do. It's just a matter of the sheeple out there and how their minds are trained to operate. This could be shown right to him. He could literally have a 666 on his forehead in this picture, and people out there will say, he's just trolling, or that's not what that really is. They'll say it's wrinkles in his forehead, because they're trained not to look and see signs and symbols. They're trained to be oblivious sheep, and that's how they operate. So people out there are already deflecting on this portrait, and they're like, it's not satanic, it's not the pits of hell, it's not blood. It's just the color red, right? Well, wouldn't it be the color purple? I mean, isn't that the royal color? Why would they choose red, right? Why would they choose that butterfly? Oh, right. It's red because red, let me guess, red's his favorite color? Or what was the ridiculous excuse the painter came out and gave us? He said something along the lines of, it reflects his role as regimental colonel in the Welsh Guards. Oh, right. Hang on one second. I was just born yesterday, so I need to have my baby bottle, because clearly they treat us like babies and infants. And that's because most people's minds function as infants, which is why they're so obsessed and dependent on their government to take care of them. That's how this entire design works. So they can come out and tell you stuff like that, and they can laugh at the excuses because they're so laughable. But there are people that obviously believe it, and we deal with these people on a day in, day out basis. But most people should see this and say, well, that is pretty weird. And most people should look at the butterfly and say, well, wait, monarchy, is that what the monarch butterfly represents? No, it doesn't. It actually represents a lot of different things, including the transformation and them being infinite. And of course, MK Ultra Project Monarch, which is a massive form of mind control, which is being done out in the open on everybody. So when you mirror that picture, you can see the Baphomet in the picture. There's no debating that. What people will debate is they'll say, well, why would you mirror the picture? It's just a single picture. Why would you do that anyway? Because they don't understand how these people operate. Well, they follow the teachings of Aleister Crowley, who talks about the left-hand path, the right-hand path, and talks about doing things in reverse, the law of reversals. They're taught to speak backwards. They're taught to do things backwards, hence the upside-down narrative that we hear and see them using out in the open with things like Stranger Things so much now in today's world, right? Even things like the upside-down Christmas tree, these things that I've covered that they're normalizing. It's an upside-down world that we're living in. They do things and they mirror things, which is why you've probably seen and never thought much about why mirrors are so important in a lot of these films that are about demonic possession and witchcraft. You always see something coming through a mirror. You always see mirrors involved, but nobody realizes why and what the mirror represents to the occult and how they summon these spirits using things like mirrors. And mirrors is another term also used to represent altars in MK Ultra mind control programming. So this couldn't be more obvious, but again, I know people out there will continue to defend the royals. They'll continue to defend the globalists. They'll continue to defend their party in America, representing, they defend no matter what their political party does, no matter what Trump does, or no matter what Biden does. They'll protect the party because they've been trained to be communists without realizing it, right? They could literally come out and tell you that they're going to come to your house and take your wife and your kids from you. And they'll go, oh, that's fine, because they're afraid to speak out against their party. People don't even realize they're in a hive mind believing in the left, right. They're in a hive mind supporting the monarchy. These people are the ones who are deliberately sabotaging our infrastructure and our way of life to bring about this new climate agenda. It's not a cult. It's enslavement. They're enslaving you to with the carbon footprint to the climate agenda, which has nothing to do with actual science and everything to do with deceiving people into thinking that we're all doing this together to prevent, massive chaos from occurring for future generations. But really what it is to do is to set us in place to be enslaved by the carbon footprint. When common sense tells us, plant more trees if you want to stop carbon emissions and you want the atmosphere to absorb carbon, because it's called photosynthesis. But that's not, in today's world, you can't ask that question because they just they foo-foo it away. They go, no, it's too massive. The trees can't absorb it, right? Just like they tell us that men now can have babies. I thank everybody for being here. Hope you're all doing well. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't yet and you're new to the channel. Lots more content to come from this wink, wink, new YouTuber. Thanks again, everybody. God bless all of you and your families.